Okay, I believe we're live.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Kathy, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I think it's around 7:02, and 1.2 on our agenda is "O Canada" by Hazel Ridge School. Can you please stand? If you could please stand, if you can, please. If you're able to do so.
Just a quick note, Paul. I don't have Hazel Ridge School queued up, but I do have Dugald. So
thanks very much, Scott. Dugald School.
Give credit where it's due.
All right.
Now I'm gonna go share. Let me get this nailed down at some point.
Thank you to Nicole Dugald. I'm now 1.3 treaty acknowledgement, and Trustee Inslee is going to read out our treaty acknowledgements. The floor is yours, Karen.
Thank you. We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honour our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Karen. 2.1 is the adoption of our agenda. Be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. I need moved by. I can't see hands, so you'll have to use your microphone. Sorry.
Trustee Magnon, or sorry, I'll move it. Pachkowski.
Pachkowski, seconded by
Harris. I'll second.
Trustee Harris. Thanks for that.
We have Trustee Magnon. I have some, or sorry, Chairman, I have some amendments to make to that agenda now.
Okay. Go ahead, Trustee Pachkowski.
Just reflecting what we discussed back in camera, that we table the minutes for the next regular meeting.
Okay, when will they come through? We'll table them. Thank you. Anything else, Trustee Pachkowski?
No, that was it. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. The only thing, Russ, have you been able to, were you able to join the meeting, Russ, and be able to vote? Russ, are you there? Has Russ joined us? Can anyone see?
I don't see him there, Paul.
This is Jackie. I do see his picture there.
Russ, are you
And I
there?
see
Oh, yeah, yeah. he's there.
He hasn't joined on ESB though.
Okay, so Russ, you're muted. Hello. Russ, are you there? Dawn or Jared, can you give Russ a call?
I can, Mr. Chairman.
Please. We'll just hold on that until we can. I know that Russ was there. You're right. I see a few of you telling me that. And we'll just see about getting him to join. I'm sorry for the delay here.
Yeah, sometimes people get kicked off the internet and they have to wait till they can get back on. Hey,
Is he, Jackie, do you still see him?
His picture is on and he's on the phone with someone
He's
right
on-
now at the
Yeah,
bottom
he's
now.
on the phone.
You know what, while we're waiting, I'm certainly gonna, about 3.1 chair's comments. I did get a chance to take a look at some of the virtual, Kathy, some of the virtual Christmas concerts that some of the schools put together, and they were amazing. So kudos to our schools, certainly for going ahead and doing that. I'm just told that Russ needs about another 40 seconds to see where we're getting to. So that was pretty impressive. And I did go by Poverty School today, and it seemed like, you know what, the K to 6 kids it was school as usual back in. Again, it was good to see certainly everybody back in the buildings getting back at her. So kudos to the staff back at her, and certainly the work that they did prior to the break with regard to virtual concerts and choirs and songs and those kind of things. The kids did a pretty good job.
We also had several schools send some cards of encouragement to the healthcare professionals. So we had some schools who participated in that initiative as well. May not be as visible, but they were sending some good message cards.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, so it looks like he voted, so we're good. So 8 in favor and 1 is opposed. So we can move on. Thank you for going ahead and doing that.
Yes,
So
I'm
there's-
here.
Hey, Russ, thanks for there. So Chair's comments I've just shared, 3.1, 3.2, share a story. Anybody want to share a story? Trustees?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Can
Go
you hear
ahead,
me?
Trustee Barry. Yeah, can hear
Yes,
you.
just during the Christmas holidays, a few of the staff reached out to me and they really appreciate the barriers that we put in the offices. So that's just thought I'd express that to the board. They really appreciate them.
Thanks, Trustee Barry. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. We'll move on. A reminder to the public that if you have any questions, and again, we'll try to answer those questions that are on agenda items. is please send your question to scarlton@sunrisesd.ca, and we'll try to read those questions out, or we'll pay attention to those questions and see about us trying to answer them during our question period. Board delegation. I'm going to turn this over to you, Kathy, and go ahead and introduce the person that's going to go ahead and give our board the board presentation.
I can probably jump in there for a second, Paul. We were in contact with the parent from Edward Schreier. Stacy, you might have to remind me of the name. I've got it here. As of 4 o'clock today, but I don't see them logged in. So, Stacy, do you have any other communication from them with some confusion about how to access? I'm just checking my email. I have nothing.
Well, Scott, you know what? We certainly have difficulty ourselves sometimes getting on. Maybe somebody is getting on and getting on a little bit late. I propose that that we move through our agenda, and if the lady that is going to go ahead and do the presenting is there, certainly let's go ahead and do it. I do think so. Let's give them an opportunity, because I know that we have some. And if the board's in agreement with it, let's move on. And if the Edward Schreier delegation is there, who knows if they're having difficulty with connectivity, as we know we do. So I'll pause, and if anybody has an objection to that, then speak up. Otherwise, I'll move on.
I'm okay with that, Paul. I just want to know that somebody is following up with her. Do you know who would that be?
So do you know what? Stacy, can you reach out to them tonight and find out if they're having trouble getting on? Stacy, can you do that?
Sorry, yes, you bet. I can email them and see what's going on.
Okay, email them, or even try to, if we have a telephone number, can you give them a call, Stacy, and find out? And if they can join us sometime during the meeting, let's go ahead and do that.
Will do.
Otherwise than that, we'll go to 4.2, and Scott, I'm going to let you make the introduction here.
I'll introduce, I just got an email from Terry Lee Morose saying I'm here. I'm wondering if she accessed the public link and doesn't have presenters' rights. So, Stacy, I'm going to forward you this email. If you could try to work with Terry Lee while I introduce Jason, maybe we'll move forward that way.
Let's move forward with Jason, and then Stacy, if you can work offline with Tracy, we'll pick up with Tracy right after we hear from the transportation manager.
Okay, thank you. So move forward. Jason, you and I have had some back and forth about how we're going to do this. I'll share my screen, and that way you can maybe focus on just going through your presentation. The trustees certainly have a copy loaded on ESB. Trustees, I'm not sure how many of you have had an opportunity to meet Jason Ziprick, who's our recently hired transportation manager. He's got his camera on now, so he'll wave at you folks. Jason I've been looking for an opportunity to get him in front of you. He's what, you're month 3 now, Jason? 4?
Yeah, I think it's let's see, September, October. Yeah, 3 or 4. But okay. It's been thanks for the introduction. It's been great. I've been having a blast. To those trustees who have had a chance to meet, it's been great. And when the world changes, I look forward to meeting each of you in person and sitting down and having a chat. But for now, this is what you get over the video. And so today I'm going to talk just a little bit about a request to move forward some money from the bus reserve to do some great things with regards to getting five buses back on the road. So is that okay to start, Scott? Can I jump right
absolutely.
In? Okay.
I'll move the slideshow as you advise.
Okay, yeah. So if you can go to the background slide. So I'm not going to read. I'm certainly not going to read this for you. The background is that when I started, we had 10 buses sitting in Beausejour along the fence, looking very sad. They had blown engines, and some had been sitting there from a range of 17 months to 6 months. And while there was a plan for them, the plan had stalled, and you know, the initial idea to replace those diesel engines with gas engines was a great one. It just, unfortunately, whether the vendor that we were going to use overpromised and underdelivered is probably what happened, because when I started to make some questions as to why that was not moving forward, I found out they were still designing the solution, and that I was sitting with their product development team, and it was going to be probably November, December before they even looked at the first bus. So Scott and I chatted about what our options were, and I had some further discussions with the vendor of the diesel engines, and where my team had thought that there was only a 1-year warranty on these replacements, I was able to talk to the vendor and get some conclusion that that we needed a 2-year warranty with those replacements. And so based on that, and knowing that the conversion to the gas bus probably was not going to happen in any short order, we utilized that funding that was approved, and we did the replacement of actually 5 engines with a diesel to diesel replacement, just because it was a little bit cheaper. And we started that on it started at the end of September, and we had completed five engines by the beginning of November. And so now we have 5 buses sitting there along the fence in Beausejour, really, you know, not adding any value at all to the division. And so we are asking to utilize $160,000 from the bus reserve to get those next 5 done. So the recommendation is that the board would approve the $160,000 from the bus reserve to fund the replacement of 5 engines this school year. And those buses have been sitting really a range from 7 months to 17 months out of service. I would consider it a stranded investment. They're probably worth about $400,000, and the cost to replace them would be close to $1 million. The longer that these buses sit and sink into the ground, the just more money it's going to take to actually get them safetied and certified and back on the road when we decide to do it. So I truly believe that the right time to do this is now. So on to the next slide. So, you know, we're not doing it without some thought to next year's budget. So typically we would buy 5 new buses a year. I know in the past we've bought more. I think 5 is probably a good number, a valid number. And if we were able to get these 5 buses on the road this year, I believe that we can reduce that by 1, which covers the funding, and buy 4 buses for the coming year. And from a retirement perspective, you know, since I've been here, like Scott said, 3 months, we've already had to take 2 buses off the road. One which is just happened last week, and it's the one that's on there identified as 12 years old with 491,000 kilometers. It just could not pass safety without some very significant structural work that would cost probably to the tune of close to $15,000. So the guys in the garage were very sad, because that was our one bus that was getting very close to 500,000 kilometers. So they were sad to take that off the road, but it was the right thing to do. So when you look at the numbers, Scott, if we can go to the next slide, I can walk you through where we're at, kind of the puts and takes to what we're asking here. So right now in the bus reserve, sitting today, we have $163,000. We are asking for $160,000. Our vehicle support grant will probably come in around $239,000 plus interest, means that a balance in our bus reserve would sit at $243,000. Our budget that we're going to bring forward for 2021-22 would be $460,000, and that would give our total funds available as of July 1st at $703,000. And then we don't have our full pricing available yet to us. We're going to get that probably in the next 2 weeks, but we are estimating we'd buy 4 buses, exact pricing to be determined, which would be a total of $520,000. I'm going to talk in the next slide about a GPS upgrade that we need to do, and that would bring us to a total cost of $534,000. So what we would end up with next year at this time in 2022 is pretty much close to the same amount that we have today in the bus reserve. So we're, you could look at it and say we're kind of borrowing from the bus reserve to get these buses back on the road sooner than later. And then the next slide is just talking a little bit about our GPS upgrade. So all of our buses are equipped with the GPS system, and the one that we're currently using, the V3, it runs out of support around February 2022. That's right from the vendor, and so it requires a swap of every GPS unit in the bus. So we believe that for efficiency, that should be done in the summer months when the buses are all in Beausejour. It would be much easier to do. So we'd be looking to do that this summer, and we have the pricing from the vendor, and we can get a pretty good price if we agree to a 3-year contract with a price per unit of $120, which is about just over $10,000 cheaper if we just outright purchase them. I see no plan to move away from this vendor. It would be a costly endeavor to do. This is a vendor that many of the school divisions across Manitoba use, and we're very happy with the service. So I would see limited risk in signing up for a 3-year contract to get that savings. And that's really the request. If you want to go back to the previous slide on the dollars, if we need some further discussion around that, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jason. Are there any questions from board members for Jason?
Yes.
Go ahead, Don.
That 3-year contract, is that $120 per year? Is that the $120 completely?
What's that? Sorry, Don?
Well, is that $120 per unit? Is that, do you have to pay $120 per unit per year, which would give you $360 after a 3-year contract?
No, there's a yearly maintenance fee that we pay for the Zonar service, for the GPS service. This $120 is the price for the actual equipment in the bus, and so there's no further cost related to that. There's a service contract that we have with Zonar to continue to provide us the service on a yearly basis. This is a one-time cost of $120 per unit.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for Jason?
Yeah, I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. It's a nice presentation. The question is, the buses that you want to change the engines in, roughly how many kilometers are on them all?
It is a range. I've got that information here. They are not the we've done the oldest or the newest ones already, and so we are looking at a range of anywhere from 178,000 kilometers to close to 195,000 kilometers. So there is still some very good life in these buses. They are not they're certainly not going to be out of service in a year or two by any stretch. We can usually get close to 300,000 kilometers on a bus, and these would likely serve as spare buses, and we take some of our older spare buses off the road.
Thank you.
The five that we did previously, we started obviously with the lower kilometer buses to get those on the road quicker.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else for Jason?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Trustee Inslee.
Are we not going with the Cummins engines? because the max force was originally discounted, and I just wondered, like, when the original request for the 18 engines to be retrofitted, it was decided to go with the Cummins because it was a 5-year unlimited warranty. I'm just wondering if something's changed.
Yeah, and what changed was on my first slide that I think that we had maybe got a bit of a sold some vaporware from the vendor when Cummins came to us and said that the it was still in product development and they were figuring out how they were going to do it, and they would not even be able to potentially look at it until November of this year. So they just were not ready, and I'm not sure if it was due to these buses were different than ones that they've done from the past, but right from Cummins themselves, I had a couple meetings with them over the phone, and in the end, they just apologized and said that they were not ready to do that retrofit.
Oh, okay. Just it wasn't mentioned as Cummins being the ones that you were waiting for, and
Yeah, no, sorry,
they were
that
the product.
That was the vendor. Yeah, you have the story correct, and listen, it was a great plan. Like we certainly do think that gas engines are the way to go, but in this case, it just it was a great idea, but just not able to be done at this time.
Oh, well, thank you for clarifying, because when you said the vendor didn't deliver, I didn't realize it was Cummins that didn't deliver. Yep. Thank you.
No problem.
Does anyone else have anything for Jason?
I have a question. It's Trustee Duma speaking.
Go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Please. The question I have is just the numbers. That the balance in the bus reserve was 163,000, and I guess I don't know. I'm missing a document perhaps, but I know that for the finance committee, I don't know that we have that updated current balance in the bus reserve. So I just wondered where that number came from, because I don't think that that's been in the financial monitoring reports. It's always been related to the June 30th number. So this number doesn't match what we've had in the financial monitoring report. So just wondering where the number came from.
That's definitely a number that I provided to Jason that should match what's in the monitoring report. I'm just pulling up the most recent one here. So that is the balance as of today. Just to clarify a little bit, we don't allocate all of the bus reserve money until we receive it from the province. So that's the other 30%, the 239,000. But as of today, the balance should be the 163,000.
Thanks, Scott. Anything else, Trustee Duma? You're muted, Diane.
There's no urgency for this to be considered in terms of any action item for this today. Is there any urgency for this, or is it part of our budget process?
I think the give and take, sorry, Jason, if I can just jump in for a sec,
yep.
Diane, it is kind of part of the budget process. So if you look at the allocated in 21-22 budget, in the last 2 years, we've allocated more in the neighborhood of $800,000 for the purchase of new equipment. We're reducing that now because Jason feels that he'll have enough equipment on the road if we can repair the 5 buses. So it all kind of meshes together as part of the budget process. Having said that, as you guys know, in terms of timing, the budget is due to the province not till the end of March. So it's not urgent as of tonight, Diane, to your question. But it is sort of part and parcel of the budget process.
Thanks,
yeah,
Scott,
thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Jason, I have a couple of questions for you. It's Paul. Sure. Jason, my questions are, how's the job going? And what's working? And what are some of your challenges? And do you know what? I don't know if you've set any goals for your department or yourself. And do you have any? That's the kind of stuff that I would be looking for.
Yeah, sure. I can, if we have time, I'm happy to more than happy to take you through some of those things and some of my highlights and observations. And so, certainly from a if I would break it down from am I enjoying myself? Because that's very important to me that I do enjoy my job and find it fulfilling. Absolutely. So, for those that were part of the interview process that I went through in summer, I talked to me looking for a job that certainly met various my checklist per se on what I was looking for, and it is I'm enjoying it. Right, it is a little bit different than what I'm used to, but that difference is something that gives me a spring in my step per se, and absolutely I'm loving it. How are we doing? It is a very different year this year, right? So when when I started, we were right in the start of COVID. How are we going to transport kids? Very new, very different, no different than what the rest of the world is going through. The good side is that I was faced with lots of challenges, able to meet those with my team. The challenge is that I haven't had a chance to really see what a true normal school year is as of yet, with field trips and things like that. But we had a driver shortage that we had to deal with. We did a lot of hiring. We were able to not miss any runs at all. And when I talked to my peers across the province, there were many school divisions that canceled multiple runs every week. Very proud to say that we haven't had to do that. Very proud to say that we were able to transport all eligible students to school. So that challenge of looking for drivers, the bus inventory, that was another challenge. Our new buses were delayed in being delivered. Getting those 5 buses back on the road, building a plan to do that. Very happy we were able to do that. From an employee perspective, employee engagement, I had lots of discussions with my drivers. Perhaps there was a feeling that they were not part of the team. So I'm doing weekly updates that go out to my entire team, a weekly newsletter that I send out every week, just to get people to feel connected and part of a team. I think what we need to do from a goals perspective, I really would love to do a parent survey coming up here probably before the end of the school year, just to get a feeling on a customer experience perspective, so that I can say where are we missing expectations with our parent community. What kind of investments in tools and technologies do we need to make? There are some things out there that we can do with regards to parent apps and real-time tracking of buses, things like that I really don't know if our parent community wants. I think they would, but I think if a well-written survey, we can get a good pulse on what our parents are feeling and go from that perspective. So I'm still learning the people, still learning the cadence of what they're expecting out of me and what I'm expecting out of them. So it is I'm really enjoying it.
Thanks very much, Jason. Anyone else want to go ahead and ask a question? Okay, hearing none, Jason, thanks very much for coming in front of us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Stacy, is that other board delegation from Edward Schreier, are they ready for us? Are we ready for them?
I believe we have Terry Lynn successfully joined the meeting now. Is that, you want to go back to that piece on the agenda, Paul?
Absolutely. Let's not have Terry Lynn wait any longer.
Okay.
So welcome Terry Lynn to the board. Normally we would go around and introduce ourselves to you, but again, with new COVID, this is the best way that we're going to go ahead and do it. My name is Paul Manning. I'm the board chair. So I'm going to give you roughly 10 minutes, Terry Lynn, to talk to us. We do have what Scott has on the screen in front of us, And if we need to ask some questions for clarification, we'll go ahead and do that. So the floor is yours, Terry Lynn. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, and sorry about the delay in the setup.
Don't
Too
worry
many
about it.
Microsoft kids, I think, and yeah, anyways, too many kids, too many cooks in the kitchen. So thanks for having me. Sorry, we have a few questions. We are part of that, unfortunately, that part of the group that was to go to Europe this year.
Terry Lynn, I'm gonna stop you for a minute. I hear a pong. I hear a pong noise, kind of. Okay, stop now. Okay, Terry Lynn, the floor is yours. Thank you. I think you muted yourself, Terry Lynn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I think it's go ahead.
Okay, I don't know what this pong is about, but I'll try to be brief. I'm one of the parents whose children was part of the Europe trip that unfortunately was canceled due to COVID. We have not received any refunds except for $100 token from Explorica. We are all out just shy of $3,900. I believe there's 20 students that were supposed to go. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a class action lawsuit. And it's across Canada, and there's a couple of lawyers involved, and we're trying to get our money back. Multiple school boards across Canada, there's an online Facebook page. Lots of the school board across Canada have been supporting the parents by writing letters to either Explorica or the underwriter insurance companies that are supposed to be paying our refund for this canceled trip. So some of the questions that we have are, first of all, the school board canceled less than the 30 days required by our insurance company, and why did this happen? Like, why did we cancel less than the 30 days? Question number 2 was, what has the school board done to act on behalf of the parents? And has a letter been sent to Explorica or Arch Insurance asking for our refunds? And as I was saying, school boards and other divisions and in other provinces across Canada have been supporting the parents and students by getting their legal teams involved, writing letters, making phone calls, and why has Sunrise left us on our own? And then fourthly, I guess it was asked by another parent for Kathy Timko, she had asked her to for a letter to be written to Explorica. That was months ago, and Ms. Timko said that a letter would be written to Explorica stating that if the issue is not resolved, that Sunrise would be cutting ties with this company and not using them for future travel. And then we were asking if that letter was sent, indeed if it was sent, if we could get a copy of that letter. So those are 4 questions from another parent that I'm speaking on her behalf. I'm also just, you know, upset that the school board had told us not to cancel on our own, that it was like going to be a group effort. You guys wrote the letter canceling. And then after the fact, every time I would approach Miss Lamb or, you know, try to get a hold of somebody, Miss Lamb would always say, please don't do anything. Just sit tight, hang tight, don't do anything. Well, months and weeks went on, and had we been able to maybe try and go on our own to get some sort of insurance through our credit cards, I know that we would have been able to, you know, Visa would have been able to refund some of that money, because some visas do have insurance for such situations, canceled trips and whatever. So, oh my God, what is with my family? So anyways, yeah, we're this 20 parents or 20 students, we're out about $76,000. And we just don't feel like you have supported us at all, from the school trustee to the school board. And what else can I tell you? I just feel that going forward, I hope that the school board never uses this company ever again. So I just hope that in future that will never happen. And I would hope that you would write a letter on our behalf and stating that, and hopefully, you know, you could hit them where it hurts by saying that you would never use their company again. What else? I had another couple questions. I'm just wondering too, did the Explorica rep advise our group leader, like Miss Lamb, to cancel our trip? And I was wondering too, who might the Explorica rep be? And I don't know if I need to speak. Well, I know that Tanya Lamb did say that the previous group rep had since quit and she was assigned another group person, but like we haven't heard from Miss Lamb either in months. So we're just all left to fend for ourselves. That's all that I really have to say about all of that, I guess.
Paul, you're muted.
Sorry?
Thanks, Terry Lynn. One of the trustees was reminding me that I was muted, and you've gone ahead and muted yourself. So thanks for going ahead and doing that. So Terry Lynn, I'm going to open it up to our trustees to ask if they have any questions for you so that we can get clarifying information. So I'm going to open that floor to trustees now. Anybody have any questions for Terry Lynn? And thanks for doing this in front of us, Terry Lynn. We appreciate it. Any questions from anyone?
Yes, I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Barry, floor is yours.
I just like clarification, like your name is Terry Lynn Morose, like, and all the documentation we have so far in this, your name is not mentioned at all. So I just wanted your clarification of who you are and what you're part of this. I assume your child was on this trip.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, my name is Terry Lee Ostaff Morose. A couple of the parents, just with where they live in Beausejour out in rural Manitoba, didn't feel like their Wi-Fi connection was going to be satisfactory for holding this type of meeting. And the other parent liaison that was kind of the person that really wanted to speak with you, unfortunately, is in university on a Zoom call being taught some kind of university class. So she wasn't able to join. So they asked me to step up on their behalf as well. But I am a parent of concern. I really want some action done as well. And I've been, you know, following the Facebook page and this lawsuit, and I've given all kinds of information, and I've written letters and phone calls and trying to keep up with being on them to refund our money. We've paid insurance, and we feel that we still have, you know, money to be refunded to us. So my oldest son, Kyle Morose, was the person that was supposed to be going on this trip. And he's already graduated and moved on now to university and will not have an opportunity to do this type of trip again with the school.
Thanks, Terry Lee. Any other questions, trustees?
I just have one follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Go ahead, Trustee Barry.
So it's the insurance for the students? Are the chaperones requesting their insurance to be paid also, or were they covered? It's just the students that we're talking about, or is it also the chaperones?
Okay, so we're not asking for the insurance to be refunding. We're asking for the total cost of the trip less the insurance. That, you know, that's what, I mean, we paid for services that were not received. And I actually don't know if Miss Lam, like, well, I'm not a chaperone. The two chaperones were Miss Lam and the phys ed teacher. I'm sorry, his name escapes me right now. And I don't know if they pay for their trips. That is a very interesting question, and I would like to know that. Is Miss Lam and the other teacher also out the same money that we are out? Close to just shy of $3,900? I don't know.
Thanks, Terry Lee. Any other questions from trustees?
It's Trustee Duma. I can't find my hand. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Diana.
Could you tell us, please, Terry, how many students are involved and how many families?
I believe it's 20 students, and I'm not sure if there's any siblings there or not. So I would say 20 families are involved.
Thank you, Terry. Any other trustees for clarifications, questions?
It's Trustee Pachkowski here.
Go ahead, Jared.
You know what? I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to come make a presentation. My internet is very unreliable right now, and I do apologize, but I was in and out of the presentation, so I didn't get a lot of it, but I will review it, and if I have any questions, I'll make sure they get to you in some fashion. So my apologies for that.
Thank you. Anyone else, trustees? So hearing none, Terry, what the board will do is we'll continue to ask questions of our senior administration. The board will get back to you. There are a number of questions that you've asked, and we will answer those questions for you. We won't be doing that tonight, but we will be doing that back to you and to the group, certainly to go ahead and do some sharing. Kathy, have I missed anything, or did you want to add anything, Kath?
Trustee Magnon, would I be able to add in there?
Sure, go ahead.
It's Trustee Pachkowski, and so yeah, just in accordance with our bylaw, again, we'll be the board will decide on kind of how we're going to respond to you, and we'll coordinate through the superintendent's office to get back to you within 3 days from today, and let you know at least what we're doing. We may not have a decision at that point, but at least we'll let you know what course of action we've taken.
Thanks, Jared. Kathy, did you want to add anything?
Nope, I was just going to add what Jared added.
Okay.
Okay, so I just wanted, sorry, can you hear me again?
Go ahead, Terry.
I just wanted to close the loop then. Did I hear correctly in saying that the school board will get back to us within 3 days about something? And did I hear that you will try to answer the sort of 4 or 5 or 6 questions that I asked? And then also perhaps have a decision about what you'll do going forward?
So yes, Terry, is that we will get back to you one way or another within 3 days. You might not get the total answer in 3 days, but we will get back to you. If it means then that we're going to get back to you within 3 days and tell you that you'll have an answer in a week and you'll have it in writing, we'll go ahead and do that for you. We'll try to answer as many questions that are possible for us, for you, but we will get back to you with what you've asked us a number of questions. We'll try to get back to you with those answers.
Okay. Yeah, okay, great.
So thanks, Terry, on behalf of the board. It's never easy to go ahead and make these presentations, but certainly thanks for going ahead and doing that on behalf of the 20 families of Edward Schreier. And you know what, none of us want to be in the position, we understand, but thank you for going ahead and doing that. And we will respond.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the meeting.
Thank you. So I'm going to move on here. We've got 5.0 where we talked about our minutes. And we did say that we were going to defer our November 3rd and our December the 8th minutes. So I'm going to move right into 6.1, our superintendent's report. Kathy, floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Trustee Mannion. I'm going to just highlight a couple of things again around our COVID-19 response and sort of where we're at with things. For families, we sent out a weekly communication on the 18th of December, just prior to holidays, reminding folks that right now we're in a 2-week period post-Christmas holidays, where only our kindergarten to grade 6 students are in class learning. Any of our students who may have exceptional needs or exceptionalities who can't be at home on their own may also be attending in grade 7 to 12. But for the most part, our grade 7 to 12 students are in a remote learning period for this 2 weeks following the holiday season. That takes our grade 7 to 12 to January 15th, Friday the 15th. And then on Monday, January 18th, every indication from the province at this point in time is that we would then return back to what they call orange level status, where our students would continue attending in class the same way they were before the Christmas holidays. So right now we're in a 2-week special circumstance where our K to 6 students are in class and our 7 to 12s are doing remote learning. The province is still in a red response level or critical red response level. And schools are still in what they call critical orange, with the exception of this 2-week period. The province has also, prior to Christmas, made some announcements about a Manitoba Remote Learning Support Center, and some of that information came out yesterday. The website is now live, and we'll get some of that information into families' hands. It just came out yesterday, so we'll put something together. The province has shifted a little bit of their timelines in terms of when they share with school divisions. They now are having sessions with our school divisions on Tuesdays, so we may shift our weekly bulletin to Wednesdays to make sure that we capture all of the information from the province in a timely manner. Doing a weekly communication on a Monday and then hearing changes on Tuesday and waiting till the next Monday to hear about them may not make a lot of sense, so we're thinking about doing a Wednesday weekly communication. In that communication, we'll talk with parents about where that link is. It is at www.edu.gov.mb.ca, but again, we'll have that in our weekly communication. What is there are some resources for parents. There is also some access to teacher support and the like, but that would go through school divisions. So if we have families or students who wish to access teachers at a provincial level, they would come through the school division. We'll have some of that information out to families, but the resources are there. Some of the content is there, and it's open access for folks if they're looking for some of those supplementary materials for educating their students. We've also hired 5 teachers to do some of the remote learning here in our own division, and we are set to roll that out on the 18th of January, and we'll have some further information coming to those families in the next week or so. I think that's it for right now. Kind of as Paul mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, our schools are sort of rolling along as they were, and kids are excited about being back in school in our K to 6 level. We've got some really positive reports from our 7 to 12. There was a little apprehension from those students and even some of those staff members. We've had some really good positive reports from people saying, wow, you know, we're really doing a great job, and kids are connecting and doing their best at this 2-week remote learning. Unless there's questions, that's my report.
Thanks, Kathy. Any questions for Trustee? Sorry, any questions for Superintendent Timko?
Hi, Kathy. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, no, I just have a question, Kathy, on your report. Oh, sorry, I didn't put my video on. So the school playgrounds may continue to be used by students during the day, but are closed for community use after schools. How are we policing that? Is there signs up to say that the playgrounds can't be used outside of school hours?
I believe the signage has been provided and would be up for outside school hours. It is really next to impossible to police, and I feel badly about saying that in public forum, but we do have to rely on folks knowing what those restrictions are and really being respectful of what the public health restrictions are. So it is not that the equipment isn't safe, and it's not that the outdoors isn't safe. It's that we don't want to have places and spaces where people can gather in groups in an unorganized way or in an unsupervised way. So I believe there's signage. I can do a double check on that, Trustee Inslee, but the signage is there, and we've been communicating out to our families and to communities about honoring the public health directives and not gathering in playgrounds or parks or backyards or whatever that might be.
Yeah,
No, I appreciate it. It's tough to police anything like that, but I just know that originally there was signage up. I just wondered whether or not that signage had been reinstated or maybe just never taken down, perhaps.
Part of me wants to say, yes, there's cameras everywhere and we're seeing everything, but that's not true.
Yeah.
Just to add, MSBA is they're often good at doing is provided us some formatting for signage, and that was provided to Derek. I'll circle back with him, but I'm pretty sure it's been put up at most sites.
Thank you. Trustee Rowland, I think you had a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Kathy, how has this remote learning, how is that going to be impacting the high school exam period that's coming up?
That's a great question. So we've been planning for exams, oh my goodness, since back at the beginning of November. And schools will be sending out information as to courses having exams. Each teacher will have a final assessment of some kind. I do have a folder and a listing, and each of the school principals has a folder and a listing of which courses are having exams, which are having a different final assessment. When we had this conversation with our teachers and with our principals back in the beginning of November, we said you best have a plan B, because if we are in remote, and touch wood, right now the province is saying that we should be back to normal and be doing in class, but if we should be in remote, each teacher needs to have a backup plan or a plan B for what that final assessment would be if an exam is not possible. Again, touch wood, we're on track for the assessments that the teachers had planned.
I guess a better question.
Any students watching, keep studying.
Yeah. So Kathy, when would the deadline be about students? Do you know anything like that? A deadline for students with regard to exams, no exams, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so students and families would know already that there is or isn't an exam in their course. So teachers have communicated that to students. The only glitch in it would be if there are some severe restrictions from the province where students are not allowed at all to be in the school. So if these restrictions that we have right now were to extend, or they weren't allowed to be in school, then the teachers would be communicating saying, all right, this is the alternate assessment that we're using. But every student who has an exam scheduled is aware and fully set with where there are and aren't exams.
Thanks, Kath. Anyone else? Questions for Kathy? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Carlton.
Thanks, Paul. Sorry, trying to find my unmute button. A very quick report. I'll touch on just a couple of things really quickly. Thanks very much to Jason. I was happy to Jason Ziprick to get him in front of you folks, and for those of you who have not had a chance to meet him, have an opportunity to at least speak to him for a few minutes tonight. So we'll get back to Jason based on our discussion. We're going to talk a little bit in a little more detail at a later agenda item, but the mitigation barriers have been installed across the division and schools, and as Trustee Barry touched on, the feedback has been fantastic. Our staff is very happy with the way it worked out. I want to touch on ICT for a second. One of the big things that our group in technology is taking on is a migration of our student information system. We've used traditionally a system called Maplewood that is moving to a different format, and that's a big one for us. That tracks a lot of information on our students, history, grades, attendance. It's a vital piece of software for us as a division, so that's a huge project for Gordon and his team in ICT. You know, that's something where Maplewood was bought out by another group, so it wasn't really our decision. We kind of had to migrate to a new system. So appreciate Gord taking that on. That'll be something that's going on for a while. And audit services coming up. Every 5 years or so, we go to market on auditors. In no way, shape, or form, at least in my experience, have I been unhappy with BDO and the way they've performed in doing our audit, at least since I've been here for the last 2 years. So this is no reflection on our current auditors. It's just something that we should do in the normal course of business, is go to market and see what other vendors are interested in our business out there. So we've done that. BDO is now at the end of their contract. Of course, we have certainly invited BDO to participate in the tender process. So once that closes on the 18th of January, we'll be bringing back proposals to the board.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions for Scott?
I have one regarding
Go ahead, Karen.
Auditors. A couple of things. Do you think that BDO will put in a tender again? And do you have a date where we need to have the new auditors in place? And is it dependent on us finalising our budget? So do you think that they're going to submit a tender, and then is there a timeline to it?
Absolutely. I've had discussions with Johan, who's our partner with BDO, and he certainly, I certainly believe he will be putting in a proposal on behalf of BDO. In terms of timelines, I mean, our general audit for our fiscal year end doesn't usually commence until the fall, October-ish, September, October. Having said that, we have some processes that we need to do in alignment with the province's fiscal year end, which is March 31st. So, those are generally performed early in the spring, April, May. It used to be a lot heavier than they are now, but there's still a few things we do. So in terms of timelines, Karen, I wouldn't be too anxious. We certainly have a few months. If we had somebody in place by March or April, I think we're fine.
Okay, thanks. I just thought that if it was somebody new, then is there anything that needs to be done imminently surrounding our budget? That was all. Whereas if it was BDO that got the contract again, it kind of would be like, operations as normal. But I just wondered if it was somebody new, whether there was, things that we had to do within a certain time frame. So.
Yeah, no, I've had some discussions certainly with other parties who may be interested. I've called to ask some questions about the RFP, and they also have experience with other school divisions in the province. So I'm not sure there's anything that Sunrise does that is unique to us in terms of timelines and audit processes. So it'd be one of the deciding factors, I think, as we assess proposals, is whether or not a firm would have experience in working with other school divisions, for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Questions for Scott?
Trustee Harris.
Go ahead, Trustee Harris.
Scott, the reason you said for Maplewood, the migration project is because Maplewood was bought out. That's correct?
Oh, sorry, Robin, muted again. Correct, yeah.
So the new software we're going with is from the company that bought them out? Is that, or is it going to be something new and they're looking into what possibilities there are?
Right now, we're looking at Edsembly is the new vendor that is taking over sort of the Maplewood database, the Maplewood software, and that's what we're looking at this point in time, for sure.
Are there other divisions in the same boat?
Yes, definitely. So Gord is part of a group that discusses this migration, and it's one of the things we have going for us as a school division is we have colleagues across the province that we can lean on that are going through some of the same challenges we are, for sure.
So this other project, Edsembly or whatever, something like that, it's a whole new different product from this new buyout company.
It's my understanding it's a different interface. The database is similar, I think, Robin, if that makes sense to you. The back end is similar. Yep. The front end is substantially different. So I think in terms of migration, there'll be a lot of challenges with end user training as well.
And that's where I was leading with that. And particularly if this new amalgamation of school divisions comes out, if the secretaries have to learn this whole new product, say this coming summer, and then amalgamation happens and we're in with someone else that using something completely different, then we're back at square one again. And it's going to be tough on them if they have to go through this more than once. So
Yeah, I hear you. Unfortunately, this one was one that was kind of out of our hands because the vendors is changing their interface.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for Scott?
I have a question, Trustee Duma.
Go ahead, Trustee Duma.
I was going to ask the same question along the same line that Trustee Harris was. So the company is called Assembly.
Assembly, yeah.
And is it American or Canadian?
Oh, I'm not even sure.
It's Canadian. They're in Toronto.
Canadian. Thanks,
Out
guys.
of Toronto. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Trustee Nickel.
Go ahead.
Scott, you said for transportation they were going to try to consolidate some routes. Did they consolidate any routes, and if they did, how many?
I'll have to follow up with Jason on that. Obviously, we only get back from holidays yesterday. It's this 2-week period, so I'm not sure on that answer, Don. I'd have to double check and follow up with you.
Actually, I'm still here.
Okay, thanks.
I'm still here. I can give you an answer if you want. Yeah,
thanks.
I'm enjoying the rest of the meeting here. It's a guilty pleasure of mine to listen to these things. But we've consolidated right from the get-go. We consolidated 3 routes, and then just yesterday, after we saw the number of kids and heard from parents that there were some other kids apart from 7 to 12s that were going to go into remote learning, we did 1 more. So we have a total of 4 routes that are sitting that are not running as of today. And I don't think that there'll be any more, but things can change. It's very fluid, and certainly if it makes sense, we'll continue to do that throughout the next couple weeks.
Thanks, Jason. Any other questions?
Yeah, I want a follow-up question. You said there was 4 routes are not running. Are you saying that are the routes not running, or do you just take away the route and merge it to another route?
It's a combination, because 2 of the routes were ones that went to CPET and Murdoch. So and they did not have any transfer students. So those were routes that just were not running because they had no students. And then the others were consolidations where we would have 1 route with, and don't quote me on these numbers, but 1 route with 4 students and 1 route with 5 students. It just made sense given the location and geography to combine those. So we've done 2 combinations, and 2 were just not running because there were no students going to CPET and Murdoch.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for Scott? Thanks, Jason.
Well,
and Scott.
Trustee Magno, I had a question now that I know that Jason is still there. There's a statement in there about alternative work for the school bus drivers. So what is that alternative work?
They are essentially just acting as spare bus drivers or standby drivers. So if we have any drivers that are off sick, they would be who we would call on after our standby drivers, if it made sense from a geography perspective.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Jason and Scott. Hearing no more questions, we're going to move on. Board business 8.1, COVID costs. That's you again, Scott. Floor is yours.
Yep, that's me again. Thanks, Paul. I apologize. You probably haven't had an opportunity to review this. Again, obviously, we just got back from Christmas vacation yesterday. I kind of scrambled to get this together today. The big change you will see in this report from the previous is we're actually projecting about $690,000 more in costs to the end of the year related to COVID. That obviously the majority of that relates to the resolution that we passed at the last board meeting to go ahead and hire 15 new teachers. If we take the 15 teachers and an average salary over 6 months, I think that made up about 675 of that $690,000. The remainder was some mitigation barriers that we hadn't projected for, and then some small costs in terms of classroom sizes. So at the end of the day, I will be reporting to the province by the 10th that we are projecting net costs of about 2.79 million, 3.1 million in costs, $300,000 in savings. And with our funding and the savings from last year available to us, we're still sitting in a position where we have some additional funding available, $621,000 left over.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Public budget input, is that you, Scott?
Yeah, that's me. I think we were just kind of leaving that there as a placeholder in case we had received anything that we could put in to provide to the board, be that communication, letters, emails, anything coming in. As well, I placed this banner in here, if you can see it on your screen. For the public out there who is watching, we're still looking for input from the budget process. We will be presenting a draft again in February to the public prior to the board ratifying that budget in March. So we still have some work to do. We still have a couple of months worth of work on budgeting. So please, public, if you have any input to provide us in terms of what our priorities should be through the process, we have an email set up that's budget@sunrisesd.ca, and you can see our mailing address there as well if you want to double check that. It's on the website.
Thanks, Scott. And the question, and it still stands, is that the board is going to get a copy of all the information that comes together with us once you send that. So thanks for going ahead and doing that. We're going to continue to move forward. 8.3 is a borrowing bylaw. It's a second reading. Be it resolved that the board approve the second reading of borrowing bylaw 373-20 for $27,500,000 as outlined. I need a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor.
I'll move. Trustee Roland.
Trustee Rowland. Trustee Reed, second it. Thank you. Any questions on the borrowing bylaw?
I actually have one, Trustee Inslee. A line of credit increase was requested in June of 2019. And is this like on top of the 27,000, I think 27 million, I think that we asked, because you say in June for the 10-month salaries that we need that kind of like buffer. Is this additional? I'm not sure. Like, I just need clarification so that I can get my head around this.
So this is not additional, Trustee Inslee. This is just a request from our current bankers and Nova Credit Union that once a year we pass a resolution allowing the borrowing that we have, the 27.5 million. It's still the same number, same loan.
So basically, we just have to kind of ask permission each year.
Each year, yeah. As a board, they would like to see a borrowing resolution from the board on an annual basis. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not an increase on what we previously asked for.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the questions. All those in favor, we're gonna vote electronically. So it passed 8-1. 8.3 is be it resolved that the board approve the third reading of the borrowing bylaw 373-20 for $27,500,000 as outlined. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by
Trustee Roland.
Thank you. Seconded by
Pachkowski.
Pachkowski. Any questions to this? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 8-1 in favor. 8.5 is the engine replacement request. Be it resolved that the board approve the use of up to $160,000 from the bus replacement reserve for the replacement of 5 bus engines. I need a mover and a seconder for it.
I'll move.
Moved
Harris.
by Trustee Harris. Thank you. Seconded by
I'll second it, Trustee Barry.
Trustee Barry, thank you. Any questions to this?
Trustee Duma has a question. I thought
Go
that this was part of the budget discussions and that there was not to be an action item for this today.
Scott, you can address that?
I asked that question and that was the response I received, so I don't know why there is a motion on it.
Yeah, there was intended to be a motion. I wanted to let the board know if it's your choice. I don't see the urgency. I know that Jason would like to get some of his buses on the road, and part of the decision that we'll make with regard to the equipment we have is part of the budget process. I don't necessarily see any urgency tonight if the board would like to defer that decision, but I think if they're ready to move forward, then that's fine as well.
I would request that simply because I don't like to spend money out of the budget that we haven't talked about the budget. I think it's preemptive and I think it should be deferred for budget discussion and included in our final budget when we talk about it.
Thanks, Trustee Duma. Can someone refresh my memory about deferring a motion? Can one trustee go ahead and defer the motion and it's all deferred, or do we have to vote on that?
You have to vote on it.
Those are motions on the.
So there's a motion on the floor. So now someone is asking to defer that motion. Don, you've said is that we would have to vote on the deferral?
Well, yes, otherwise one trustee is controlling what's happening.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so Diane, you're wishing to defer the motion. I need a seconder to that.
I'll second that. Christine Lee.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Does anybody want to talk to that?
Well, I just think that it's a preemptive move that, you know, if we have other issues that come forward as we go along discussing with our managers, there may be other issues that come forward that include a budget expense. I just think that that this could wait, and I think we were told that there was no urgency, which is why I asked the question. So it's not that it won't be looked at, but I think it just should be part of the whole budget package when we look at it as a board.
Yeah, just to clarify, I mean, we do have sufficient funds in reserve as it exists right now. The implication, I think, of the budget is more so the need or the ask for new equipment for next year would be reduced should we decide to go ahead and move forward on this. So, you know, I do think one decision certainly plays into the other. But, you know, just to be clear, this is the money being asked for tonight is not necessarily out of the budget we're currently working on. It exists now in reserve.
Thanks, Scott. Any other questions to it? Any other conversations?
Yes.
Go ahead, Trustee Harris, and then I'll go to you, Don.
So I was going to go along the lines that Scott just mentioned. Is I believe we already have a bus reserve sitting there of 163,000, if I recall the numbers. This request is coming out of the existing bus reserve. It's not affecting our next year's budget at this time, and I see that as a completely different scenario. Thanks.
Thanks, Trustee Harris. Trustee Nicol.
Yeah, I'm going to concur with Trustee Harris that it's out of this year's budget because it's out of our reserve. And I think it's important for us to get those 5 buses down, because what Jason said, he says that we got some spare buses that should be replaced. So I'd rather have 5 new buses ready to go in case those spare buses break down. And it's a lot cheaper than getting 5 buses for $160,000 than to get 5 new buses for about $600,000. So to me, it's I would like to spend it now to get those buses fixed.
Thank you. Anyone else want to talk on this? Okay, so I'm assuming, Stacy, that we need to go ahead and for this deferral, we need to I need to go round table and vote by hand. Is that right, Stacy?
That's correct. You have to do it by
Okay.
hand.
So I'm going to ask, the question is about the deferral. I'm going to go round table to trustees and say yay or nay to the deferral. Yes to defer it, no to go ahead and vote on the motion. So Trustee Barry?
I would say no to it.
Trustee Reed?
I'll say no.
Trustee Harris?
No.
Trustee Rowland?
No deferral.
Trustee Inslee,
Yes to the deferral.
Trustee Duma,
Yes, deferral, and yes, I am, but I also am not sure on that number that we received because it doesn't concur with our monitoring report.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
why
gonna
I think it's,
okay, so I'm going to hold you to the deferral, the comments are on, we're voting. So Barry, Reed, Harris, Rowland, Inslee, Duma, Pachakowski,
No on the deferral.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm missing somebody.
You're missing me.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Nickel
No.
and Trustee Mango is a no. So the motion is not passed to defer, and so now we'll go back to the motion that's on the table, and is be it resolved that the board approve the use of $160,000 from the bus replacement reserve for the replacement of 5 bus engines. We will be able to go ahead and vote on that electronically. The deferral was sorry, it was a 7-2, 2 were for, 7 were against, or however you want to read it. So now we're moving to that engine replacement. Any discussion further? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can't find my hand, so I do have a question or a discussion point on the original motion.
Go ahead.
So I guess just to clarify, because I think we covered it during the presentation, but again, I was in and out, and I do apologize for that, Jason. But so the bus reserve is technically out of this year's budget, which would be 2021, because we budgeted money and we have this money left in the bus reserve. And if we go ahead and do this, from what I understand, is we can allocate less money to the budget for 21-22 for buses. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and then in the end, we would still essentially recreate this bus reserve, so it would be almost in the same amount at the end of by the end of 2022.
So not only are we going to recoup the amount in the reserve, but we're saving money in next year's budget then?
Correct.
Thank you.
I guess my question would be, you use the word saving money. We're still going to, Scott, this is a question for you. If we spend $160,000, still we have to put $160,000 back into a bus reserve, and that would still come from the budget. So whether we're spending the money now or spending it later, it's still going to be $160,000. So there really isn't just savings. Is that true?
Well, could I comment on that though? So
sure. Go ahead, Jerry.
So we're approximately the same amount in the reserve now, Paul.
Right.
We're spending that to get 5 more buses on the road, but because we're getting those 5 buses on the road, we're allocating, from what I understand, anyways, I'm going to use the word substantial because I don't know the exact number, but substantially less to our budget for next year for buses, and adding that 160 back in. So there's savings there.
Yeah, certainly if we have allocated again over the last 2 years approximately $800,000. It's been $797,000 and change to our bus reserve over the course of the last 2 years. So if we go down this path, we're estimating again about I'll have to pull the numbers, I believe 150,000 for the new engines, plus about 460,000 for new buses. So let's pull those numbers up so I can get that right. So we're looking at allocating $160,000 for the engine replacement, and we're looking at $534,000. So about $690,000 we're looking to spend over the course of this year and next, and we usually spend about $800,000. And this will get us 9 buses on the road as opposed to the 5 or 6 we usually buy. I think last year it may even have been 7.
Thank you for the clarification, Scott, and thanks, Trustee Pachakowski. Any other questions on this?
Trustee Duma, just a comment.
Go ahead.
The bus reserve is established by the board. There is no set amount of money for the bus reserve, as there isn't in any of the reserve accounts. The board decides how much they're going to put in that, whether there's extra monies, if there's savings, depending on how your year looks at the end of the day with your budget. So this is a prediction out of what might possibly look like the 21-22 budget, but the board has not made that decision yet as to what it would look like. So that's why I'm thinking that's why I'm saying it's leaping to a budget that we haven't made a decision on yet. So, and the reserves are not written in stone. We're the ones that decide how much money goes into those reserves. So I really appreciate the presentation, because it looks like there's been some real hard thinking going on about whether we buy buses or replace engines. And that's always been a board discussion about where the cost benefit is in regards to, you know, replacing those engines or buying a new bus. So I'm glad that it's being looked at. But I also would like to say that there is no guarantee that that's your reserve, because we haven't made that decision yet. So I just wanted to add that piece in there, that these reserves are not written in stone. We are the ones that make decisions on those reserves.
Thank you, Trustee Duma. Appreciate it. Any other comments?
Yes, I just like to correct that. I don't like to make corrections, but we do not have any control over the reserve, because the reserves, we have to ask permission from the government, and the government told us in a couple of the reserves, there's a maximum amount that we can put in there, so we don't have complete control over the reserves. So I just want to clarify that there is some control, because we can't set up a reserve unless we get permission from the government. And in a couple of reserves, and I don't know, Scott would probably know, which was given to us in previous time, there's at least one reserve that it can only be to a maximum amount, and I don't remember what the maximum amount is. So I'm just clarifying that we don't have complete control of the reserves.
Yeah, correct, Don. And to clarify, you know, I agree with Diane. I believe our bus reserve is up to a maximum of 700,000 or 800,000. I had a couple of meetings ago, so I can double check on that. And to clarify, you're right, Diane. I mean, the board has to approve the budget. If we were to proceed with this plan, the $460,000 is what we would be asking for in the 21-22 budget as a management group.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on this?
I just had one.
Again.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, actually, in hearing all the recent discussion there, I just want to commend the forethought and planning. And you're right, Diane. I mean, we haven't made a final decision, but they can only plan based off of previous years as best they can. And I commend them for essentially what they've done is they've found savings, because we, as Scott mentioned, we've at least my knowledge too is we typically allocate anywhere from $700,000 to $800,000 a year for buses, and now they're going to be only asking for, you know, just over half of that in the 460, and we're getting more buses out of the deal. So this is thinking outside the box, and I commend Jason and our transportation department for coming up with a solution to save the taxpayers some dollars while getting some more resources out of it. So good job.
Trustee Rowland?
Just had a question. What would be the timeline on getting these, if this was to be approved, what would be the timeline on getting those 5 buses back on the road? Like, when would that, how quickly would that occur?
Well, we did the previous 5. We started in September, and the 5th bus was completed towards the end of October. So, you know, I think we could probably get this done. Well, obviously we're dealing with some outside sources, the vendor, to get it done. But you know, I don't think 6 to 8 weeks is unreasonable, depending on the volume of work at Maxim.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. So the motion passed 7 in favor, 2 is opposed. Thank you. 8.6 proposed subdivision RM of Springfield. It's for information. Scott, this is for information for the trustees. Is there anything quickly that you wanted to add to this?
Just really quickly, this is one that kind of popped up on our radar just before the Christmas break, unfortunately, and there was a deadline to respond by December 31st. So we have gone ahead and responded on behalf of the board. So that letter, I believe, Stacy, has been posted there now. So this is one where we have more or less a form letter that indicates, you know, please consider the sections of the Planning and Municipal Act and the School Boards Act when with regard to the 10% set aside for school divisions. So that one has been responded to.
So that's for information for us. Thank you. Anybody want to comment on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. 8.7 is the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding for Substitute Sick Leave. We have a motion here. Be it resolved that the Sunrise School Division work with the Sunrise Teachers Association to sign a Memorandum of Understanding with regards to sick days for substitute teachers. And be it further resolved that the Sunrise School Division work to sign a Memorandum of Understanding with any other employee groups or individual employees who meet the casual employment criteria. You need a mover and a seconder.
Petrikowski moves.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee
Harris.
Rowland. Thank you. Comments to this from anyone? Kathy, did you want?
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Go. Kathy, did you want to add anything to this? I'm going to give you the chance, Kath, to add it before trustees.
This is an item that we had discussed pre-Christmas. This is something that is a provincial initiative that the government would like to do to help ensure that our substitutes have some sick days should they become sick because of a COVID exposure in one of our schools.
This is happening across the province, right, Kath?
Correct.
Thank you. Trustee Inslee, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have a comment. I mean, basically the province, the government are helping people anyway, even casual staff. So if an employer doesn't currently offer like sick leave or there's a qualifying period or they're casual, then CRSB is what they can actually apply for if they've been exposed through work. So I've all along I've been uncomfortable with offering substitutes 10 days sick leave from day one, from the financial perspective, but also from the perspective that I don't know, like, I mean, is this a cost potentially to the taxpayer? And the CRSB is something that can be applied for, and so the employee, whether casual, is not going to be out of money or out of pocket if they can't work because they've been exposed through the workplace.
Thanks, Karen. Kathy, did you want to make any comment to that?
Again, I think my understanding is that because teachers are, the substitutes wouldn't qualify necessarily for that funding. And again, it is strictly if they were exposed in one of our workplaces, because they're not a full-time employee. And I think that's what the government was going after, is because they don't have coverage in any other way as teachers.
Thanks, Kathy. Any other comments?
I actually saw, I don't know, I think it was something from Trudeau today, and somebody shared a link with me. The Canadian Recovery Sickness Benefit is available if you've, regardless of your employer, especially if your employer doesn't cover you, is something that the only way that you can't apply for it is if you've gone away on vacation and have to isolate for 14 days. You can't apply for it, but if you've been exposed to the workplace, then you can. So I'm just a little bit confused on that one, that as far as I was led to believe, looking at the province's like videos and website, the CRSB is something that the employee can claim for if exposed through the workplace.
So again, this is why we consult with the Manitoba School Boards Association, because they have those labor consultants who do all of that legwork and make sure that we're doing things that are in the best interest of those employee groups or the best interest of the board in that sense. So this is coming from both MSBA and from the province. And again, they're labor specialists who would have looked at all of those angles.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Kathy. And anyone else?
Paul, I just wanted to, I think you can hear me now.
I can hear you, Russ.
Yes, I just wanted to say that originally I was opposed to this, but after Kathy explained it, it makes sense. I think my concern had been that we couldn't guarantee that the subs caught the COVID at school, but I guess we actually can. So in that case, I'd have to say that I support it because a person should get some kind of compensation if they catch that particular disease at school. But I guess as long as it doesn't expand into the other types of diseases, I think it's a good thing. So,
thanks, Russ. Anyone else want to comment?
Petrikowski.
Go ahead.
So there, I mean, yeah, so just to clarify, with Trustee Inslee, there are my understanding anyways, and I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but I want to say there were some conditions to qualify for that with respect to earnings. So they had to have earned a certain amount of money in the previous years too. And with some of our casual subs, they may not meet that dollar amount, so they might not be eligible to collect that. There was something about being unable to work at least 50% of the work that they've been scheduled to work. So again, there are some criteria where our subs, especially casual subs who are very casual, could run into some problems and not qualify, Trustee Inslee. So I just wanted to share that. The other question I did have actually though with regards to it was, I know in some workplaces now, workplace compensation is recognizing an exposure in a workplace to some degree. So I'm just wondering if our casual employees are covered by WCB, and I would imagine they still would be, or are they not? That's my question, I guess.
So teachers aren't covered by WCB. Our other union groups do have a WCB coverage, but WCB does not cover teachers in any way, shape, or form, which is why this is one of those pieces that's important. It's also a time-limited memorandum of understanding that is until June 30th of this year only. I don't know if that was clear before.
Okay, no, and I was just wondering, that's also. Okay, thank you. Answers my questions.
Any other trustees want to comment?
Trustee Duma, comment. I see the motion basically not really reading about who does the final approval for the MOU. And I'm wondering, does that final MOU come back to the board for the board to finally approve the language in the MOU and make sure that it meets what we're talking about? Because I think the motion is very broad. It doesn't really define some of the things that we've been talking about. And I would not approve anything unless I know I can look at the final one.
Yeah, so I think the documents that were attached back in the in-camera meeting before December, the template documents, would have board signature on that before it was in play. It asks for the Secretary Treasurer to do the negotiation of the memorandum of understanding. It would come back to your signature.
So Diane, is that somebody's got their mic on? So Diane, is that understood? Is that it's coming back to the board? It's about this is about giving permission to negotiate it and then coming back to the board.
Right. So it comes back to the board to be finally approved, and it will be based somewhat on that template that we received, but it doesn't have to necessarily be exactly as that template reads.
Yes. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll vote.
One more question. Have we had any consideration as to what could potentially be the maximum cost for this motion?
We have had one situation from the beginning of this school until now where this would have been the case because someone was deemed to be a possible close contact. So one substitute teacher from the beginning of the year till now.
I guess I'm looking at more if it works in terms of who is eligible, and all of the people that were eligible had to use this MOU, what would that potential cost be?
I don't know if you're looking for an answer to that right now, or I kind of trying to do our best job of projecting based on what we've seen and what we would anticipate. If we're talking about each and every one of our substitutes, I want to say we're 150, 160 substitutes. If each of them were a close contact in a school, it would be, 10 days of sick days or isolation days for 150 or 160 substitute teachers.
And is this money recoverable from the province? Do we know that?
I don't know that right now. I don't anticipate it being a very large cost at all.
However, this would be a COVID cost to answer your question, Diane. Have we spent all the potential money, certainly from the province, with regard to our COVID costs? No, we haven't. Could it be 150 people times 10 days? Yes, it could be for the next 5 months. I think that if we have 150 people with close contacts in our school division, probably not having too much school, for the next little while with it. But it is a good question, Diane. So it could be that kind of a cost to us. And again, the cost that's recoverable right now that they've said to us is that we're still haven't spent all the money that's there. They've also said to us is that if there are additional costs that come about, we could go ahead and apply. They didn't say that we would get all that money, but they did say, because some of the smaller school divisions on my board chair calls are saying that, guess what, if we have additional costs, can we go ahead and apply? And the province has said yes. Kathy, can you clarify that, or Scott, can you clarify that?
Yeah, absolutely. If we demonstrate a need beyond the 3.3 million between our savings from last year and the additional funding, there is a pool of funds that we can apply to. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just have one more comment. I think I heard correctly. I'm not sure. Kathy, you said that there's been one person who was sick from the start of the year and they're still having COVID, or?
No, we had someone who was a close contact. So in our schools where we've had a positive case, a substitute could have been, or we had one substitute who was identified as a close contact. If they were booked to work the next 8 days or next 9 days, they wouldn't have been able to, because they've now had to isolate because they came and substituted for us. So because they were a substitute in a place where there was a positive case, they then were forced to isolate and lost out on income. Does that help?
Okay, yeah. So I guess my only comment would be I would like to see some sort of a limit on how many days a person could collect for.
There is a limit. I think it's 10.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. I think Diane Rowland, we're waiting on you.
Sorry, I'm just having trouble syncing my thing. It didn't come up for the vote, so I'm going to just try again 1 second. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Dan. So there are 6 in favor and 3 opposed, so it carried. Thank you. 8.8 is the Whiteshell Colony Gross School Principal. Be it resolved that the board offer the position of the Gross Colony School Principal as recommended by the superintendent. You need a mover and a seconder. Dawn, are you going to move that?
Yeah, I'll move that with some changes.
Okay.
The change I'm going to go that there is no such thing as Gross Colony School. It's Gross School. It's either Whiteshell Colony or Gross School. So I'd like to put it at what it's really called as Gross School.
So we can get a friendly amendment. Be it resolved that the
Well,
board.
we don't need a friendly amendment because I'm making the motion. So I'm changing the motion that's in there because that's not the motion. That's just a suggested motion. So I'm making the motion, and there's no amendment to be made because I'm making the motion that says Gross School.
Okay. Be it resolved that the board offer the position of the Gross School Principal as recommended by the superintendent. That's Dawn. That Trustee Nichol has moved it. Is there a seconder? Trustee Brolin, thank you. Stacy, can we still vote on it, or do we have to do that by hand?
No, you can still vote on it. I'll just change it in the minutes to reflect, to take out the word colony.
Okay, thank you. So we'll vote then, please. Trustee Barry, we're just waiting on you. It passed in 9-0. Thank you. 8.9 plexiglass report, Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I'll go through this pretty quick. So based on the direction from the board, we did reach out to all our schools and offered the installation of mitigation barriers. We did have 2 schools who ended up saying no thank you. So we did not install at Enola or Gillis. Most of the schools were done prior to the Christmas break, and there was 4 more installed over the Christmas break. Trustee Barry had mentioned, I think I mentioned in my report as well, getting some really excellent feedback, particularly from the union president and a lot of the admin staff at the school. So project is complete. Ended up costing about $10,000. It was $10,990, I think, as I mentioned in my COVID report.
Thank you. So thanks for the information. We'll move on. 8.10 planning Springfield, Scott.
Yeah, these are. This is actually one that Kathy had brought to our attention. This is more of a, I think of a community sort of involvement. Kathy, do you want to touch on this?
Sure. This was one that the RM had sent out to, I believe, all of their partner organizations, and had posted it on their own website and had, I think, put it in the Clipper as well. So I wanted to send it out prior to our next meeting, just to let trustees know in case they wanted to participate in that process.
Thank you. That's for information. Anybody want to comment? Okay, we'll move on. 8.11, the RM of Lactabani zoning bylaw 15-20. That's for information, Scott.
Correct, for information.
Any comments? Hearing none. 8.12, the draft spring.
Sorry, but are you approving that letter that's being sent out? Because it looks like there's a proposed letter. Are you confirming that letter is okay?
Are you talking to me or you?
Yeah, sorry, to the chair, just in regards to that last item for the, was there not an item in that section of the letter that would go to regarding the zoning? It was the fourth attachment, and it was just a drafted letter, and I just, before you moved on to the next one, just wanted to make sure that that was a letter that was okay to go.
Yes, they had talked to me about the letter. Did you want something changed with that?
No, but I'm just looking for input from the trustee in that area, that's all.
Oh. Sorry, I thought you were talking to me, Diane.
I was speaking to the chair, directing it through you.
Yeah, I caught that, sorry. So no, anything then from Lactabani? I think that Russ is fine. 8.12, draft Springfield zoning bylaw. Scott?
Yeah, the last three there, Paul, 812, 813, and 814 are preliminary plans and therefore information.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about those preliminary plans or information? 8.12, 8.13, and 8.14. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Policy committee update. Chair Harris, floor is yours.
Policy committee met on December the 10th. The minutes of that meeting are included on your ESB. Our planned meeting for next Thursday is being bumped to another date yet to be determined to allow finance to meet on that night.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Trustee Harris? Thank you, Trustee Harris. 816 Finance Committee. Trustee Rowland, anything to report?
I just want to say thank you, Policy Committee, for your flexibility and your dates. I appreciate that because Finance Committee would like to meet. We did not meet in December. Our last meeting was November 19. So we have work we'd like to complete before our next board meeting. So I appreciate that. We will be meeting twice this month and nothing exceptional to report, but just check register to review or to approve.
All right. So what you're saying, Trustee Rowland, is we do have a check register to approve?
Do we not? I believe we do.
No, I believe we approved November at December 8th board meeting. So
sorry, thank you.
We'll be looking at, sorry, that would have been, yeah, so we'll be doing November and December. So we would have met as a finance committee in November on October's statements. We still have to do November and December, and that'll be the two meetings this month. So,
correct.
so nothing
So
for tonight. Yeah.
Next meeting will be busy. Thanks.
Right. You bet.
And Jared will be check signing authority for January.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. So 9.0 Professional Development Committee. Professional Development, I'm sorry. Capsule, Trustee Reed. So floor is yours, Russ.
Okay. Trustee Nickel and myself, and I'm not sure if anybody else from our division went or not, but I know Trustee Nickel and myself did go to the did go online to the capsule. It was consisted of a lawyer from Alberta, one from Ontario, and one from Nova Scotia. The ones from Alberta and Ontario concentrated on the law and the effects COVID was having on the teachers. A lot of teachers feeling a lot of stress, particularly the ones that were involved in distance learning and in classrooms. It puts a lot of pressure on them, and so basically the lawyers were saying that the law says that the division has to do as much as it can to help protect them. The lawyer from Nova Scotia took a slightly different approach, and he said that they had a couple of cases in Nova Scotia where teachers were working on distance learning and ran into some difficulties, and they were basically switched or demoted from down to a position of lesser importance. And he said that in his mind, it's going to the court. And he said that divisions that are over supervising or over trying to control teachers on the distant learning are putting themselves in peril, because in Nova Scotia, there were a couple of them being sued already. So he just said that you have to be very careful that you're not being too restrictive, because a lot of the teachers haven't had a lot of experience with, or some of the teachers maybe, haven't had a lot of experience with computers and teaching on a computer and just knowing exactly what to do, and they don't maybe get as much in-servicing as they should, and so it creates a lot of difficulties. And I don't know if Don has anything to add to that. That's basically all that I would want to say about that. It was very beneficial, though, I thought.
Thanks, Russ. Don, did you want to add anything?
No, other than what kind of Russ said too, that I don't know whether it was Nova Scotia or whether it was one of the other provinces said that in some cases, if a teacher did not follow the protocol, and because it was something new and everything else, that in one place the school board had disciplined that teacher, and the teacher had gone to the union, and in the lawyer's eyes, because it hasn't gone to court and finalized by the lawyer's eyes, he's assuming the school board is going to lose, because it was something that was not out of the ordinary, and it wasn't really in the we'll say in the plan of what teachers are really supposed to be doing. So in other words, I think he gave a case something like that. If you were supposed to close the door at 9 o'clock and you closed it at 9:15, that should not be a case of dismissal. So that was an interesting case. But again, it was before the court, and it's only his opinion. There's only one lawyer's opinion, so you can't necessarily read everything into that.
Thank you. Any questions from trustees?
Well, yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Trustee
Can
Barry.
you hear me? Yeah, I did attend that seminar also, and I'd like to echo what my colleague says. Yeah, it was interesting to see what everybody across the whole country is dealing with this situation of the pandemic. Very, very informative seminar.
Thanks, Trustee Barry. All right. So we have 10.0 as financial monitoring report. We do not have one. Board correspondence, nice to know information. You have information in 12.1 and 12.2. You know that we have upcoming meetings. We do have a board budget meeting this Thursday starting at 6 o'clock. Questions from the public. Scott, do we have any questions?
Sorry, Paul, mute again. Let me just jump back to my email. I see nothing.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of the chair, just regarding the correspondence? Can I go ahead?
Sure, go ahead, Diane.
Just regarding the correspondence, the letter that was sent by email regarding the Edward Schreier School approval for the, I think it was Edward Schreier, could that not be considered correspondence in our minutes?
Sorry, Diane, the letter that for Edward Schreier, what are you talking about? I'm missing something.
We got a letter in the email. Was it there not an email saying that they were going to go ahead with approving the HVAC? I thought we received something from Public Schools Finance.
There was something over the holidays, Paul, with regard to some slight changes and then proceeding with an RFP on it.
So was that sent to the board or not?
Yes, I did. If I got it, I forwarded it on to you. So what you're asking then is that it get put into the board correspondence?
Yes, please. Is that possible? Because no one knows we've got that. It's sitting in our email. It's just should be in our, if it's okay to put in the correspondence.
Okay, Stacy, do I normally, when I get that information, do I copy you when I copy the rest of the trustees on that?
I haven't seen that letter, no. So if you would forward it to me, I could put it up on ESB.
Okay, so Stacy, what I'll do in the future is that I will make sure that I copy when I get letters from the US from when I get letters from the province, I'll make sure that I forward it on to you so that you can include it in that. That's a good idea, Diane. Thank you. Okay, so I do not believe that we need to move into in camera.
Trustee Meg.
We don't. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Trustee Petrikowski.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind that the board, we had a delegation tonight, and that we have 3 days to respond, maybe not with an answer, but at least what action we're taking or what we're going to be doing. So what I would recommend, because of the time this evening that we have already, is that we set aside a short period of time on Thursday when we meet, so that we can provide the superintendent with a direction then as to what we're going to respond with, or we have to have that discussion tonight.
So thanks about that. I was going to go ahead and ask the superintendent to provide some information with some of the questions that were delivered. And I think, Kath, you can provide us that information and we'll get it before Thursday. We'll get it kind of before Thursday, and we'll have that information before Thursday. Is that okay, Kath?
Yep.
Okay. So if it's good with the board, then is that we'll get that information. We'll discuss it for a little bit before Thursday. And then Scott, we'll talk a little bit about we'll probably start a little bit later with the budget presentation that you have. Our meeting starts at 6 o'clock. We'll start it a little bit later than that. Is that okay, Scott?
Yeah, that's fine. Depending on the questions that come, I think we can get through that quick. The other piece that I wanted to talk to you about tonight, Paul, and Thursday is fine for this one as well. Brokenhead, the RM of Brokenhead was unable to make our public budget consultation meeting, and they have invited me to attend their council meeting just to do a brief presentation on budget on the 12th of January. I'm perfectly fine with it, but we have a board meeting session scheduled that night. So just wondering what is on the agenda, and maybe I could miss the first little bit to attend the Brokenhead Council meeting.
Scott, can we talk about that on Thursday as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I just thrown it out there. Thursday's fine.
And then certainly the board will give you direction certainly that way on that. But I'd like to certainly talk to the board about that.
Okay.
Trustee, I mean, yes, you're not saying, we're still having the meeting at 6 o'clock. You said that we were going to have the meeting later. We're still going to have a meeting at 6, is that right?
Meeting starting at 6 o'clock, Don, yes.
Yeah, even though we may not do it.
No, the meeting's going to start at 6 o'clock. What we will do is prior to the meeting, we're going to get some information from Kathy about the board delegation. And if we have to debate anything about the board delegation so that we can go ahead and answer, if we have all that information, then we'll try to make a decision if we're able to. That'll up to the board to decide. And then there's one other issue that about Scott going and presenting at the RM, and then we'll get into the budget presentation as well. That's the plan starting at 6 o'clock Thursday night.
And we're still going to be ending the meeting at 8.
We're still going to be ending the meeting at 8 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, again, just with all the meetings and materials coming up, I anticipate I will have meeting materials for Thursday evening to you by tomorrow morning. So keep an eye on your email. Sorry for the being late on that, but it's obviously been a crazy time with Christmas holidays.
Perfect, understood, Scott. So I don't think that we're not moving back into the camera. So I do think that we're good to adjourn. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, Pachkowski's making a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
No questions, just go Canada.
Motion by Pachkowski. Thanks very much for doing this, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, good night.